Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Who Are You podcast. I'm your host, Connor Overbay. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, welcome. Always happy to have a new listener, a new watcher, all that good stuff. If you guys want to see some more of the podcast or maybe some behind the scenes things, feel free to give a follow on social media or even on YouTube. It's going to be at Who Are You podcast for all the normal social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X, I always want to call it Twitter, all the normal spots. So make sure you guys give us a follow, a subscribe, all the normal things. As well as if you guys know someone who you feel like would be a great person to have on the podcast, feel free to shoot me an email or hit me up in my DMs. It's going to be at Who Are You Pod, or it's going to be Who Are You Pod at yahoo.com, and maybe we'll have you guys on a future episode. But today, sitting down with a very, very special guest. This gentleman I saw on one of my buddies' podcasts. Shout out to OG Sessions.
Shout out OG.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'm sitting down with Sean, and is it Olinn is your last name?
Yeah, that's correct. Olinn.
Perfect. I wanted to make sure. I have a horrible time with names.
That's right. I'm horrible too.
But welcome to the podcast, man. Before we get started and talking to you and everything, feel free to let everybody know where they can follow you, whether it's your social media, your company, all that good stuff.
So you can find me primarily on Instagram at that.orange.guy. As well as True Culture Marketing on Instagram. We're a little bit more active on the personal side because I really kind of transitioned that over to a business profile primarily, but also you can catch a little bit of behind the scenes in action on True Culture Marketing.
Hell yeah, man. So make sure you guys go give him a follow. It will be put in the description and everything, so you guys will be able to click and go straight to his page and check him out. But like I said, man, welcome to the podcast. We've been sitting here kind of talking a little bit back and forth before the podcast started. I got to watch your full interview with OG Sessions. You did a great job on there as well.
Thank you.
And shout out to the boys. They didn't ask good questions and everything. Yeah. So I'm happy to have you here today.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Have you done more than one podcast besides OG Sessions?
So we did one previously, which I kind of talked about a little bit on OG, but ended up doing one like on the spot. It was actually when we were shooting with Vault Vintage.
Okay.
So after we did the shoot, I had a guy out that has a podcast called Grit. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I don't think I am.
He's a young cat from Jacksonville, and we kind of did an impromptu on the spot and just kind of shot like a short little podcast. It was only like 20 minutes, so it wasn't anything like too crazy.
Gotcha. Yeah, so we're a little bit of a more long form. We like getting the hours in just because it's easier, like 20 minutes you can get a certain amount, but I like to kind of get the backstory of people and get to learn a little bit more about their business. And that way, so you don't feel like constrained where you have to like go blah, 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 and like get it all in within 20 minutes, you know what I mean? Yeah. And one thing I did forget to mention as well, guys, I'm actually getting interviewed on the news tomorrow. I'm going to be sitting down with Mr. Tom McManus, old middle linebacker for the Jaguars. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for that. Thank you guys for your support. You guys have been able to help me get these opportunities as well. So make sure you guys check that out. I'll post all about it. What's up? I know. I'm still just letting everybody know to check it out. But yeah, but no, it's awesome to sit down with you today, man. So we're going to kind of get to know a little bit more of your backstory, and then we'll get more into your business. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
So obviously I was talking to you about, I saw that you went to Ponte Vedra High School here in Jacksonville. Are you originally from Jacksonville?
Yeah, born and raised. So
nice.
Specifically, more or less Ponte Vedra.
Okay. How old are you?
Me currently 28.
Okay, you're not that much older than me. I'm 25.
Okay.
So I graduated in 2017 from high school and everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. 2014, I believe.
Nice.
I feel like it's so long ago, but it's not that long.
I've been saying the same thing, man. From like 18 to now has felt like a snap of a finger. I bring it up all the time on how fast time flies nowadays. And
it only gets faster. That's the scary thing.
Yeah, man. Like this year, we're already 6 months in this year, and I feel like it's just been a breeze. Just things have been going on, between work and obviously, doing the podcast. We're busy 7 days a week, especially even hanging out with family. Me and her go golfing every weekend as well. So that takes a nice little time suck, but we personally enjoy it. But no, it's definitely crazy. One thing I did see on your LinkedIn, by the way, is you were part of the Best Buddies.
Oh yeah.
I was involved in that in high school as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. I love that kind of stuff. So
that's awesome that you found that though. This guy really did his research. I like
that. Yeah. People will come on and some podcasts are more a little bit just off the cuff. And I was like that for a while. And then I just found myself asking the same questions over and over and over again. Yeah. So I like to kind of mix it up a little bit. But what was your experience like working with the Best Buddy program in high school?
So it was super cool because a lot of people don't know this about me. And I haven't been like really open about it, so this is probably the first time that I'm gonna kind of air it out.
That's what I love to hear.
Yeah. Just because you're so good at researching. But I actually grew up I was in preschool, and you know those old like jumpy bridges, like those little wooden jungle jumping bridges that you can jump on and kind of go up and down. So my friend had like kind of dared me to crawl across the bar. You know how there's bars that would hold it in, but back in the day it'd be like bigger pieces of wood, like plywood. So there's a plywood piece that was going across it, and I'm pretty sure it had rained like the day before. So when I went to go across it, I slipped, fell off the 2-story jungle gym, hit the back of my head on metal, woke up, like got up fine, went to sleep, woke up half paralyzed.
Whoa.
Yeah. After the paralysis subsided, I only spoke Spanish. That was the second language I learned growing up. And then once that subsided, I came back to normal. And then, a few months later, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. So
really?
I actually grew up with seizures for the majority of my life.
Wow, that's crazy to hear. I like with me, I grew up with I was a hardcore dyslexic growing up. Like teachers told me I would never graduate school, blah 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 blah. But the part about you waking up paralyzed, I sat down with the doctor. He's a physical therapist now, and he had a similar situation. He was in a football game. He got hit real hard, bad concussion. He like twisted his back weird, and then the next day he woke up, he couldn't use his legs. Yeah. And did you have swelling in your spine is what caused that?
So it was actually where I hit my head. So it was the left side of my head was hit because that's language and logic. So that's also where the language and logic switched up. It's either Broca's or Wernicke's area. Okay. So that's the part that deals with the language and logic. So the right side of my body was actually paralyzed.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that was a flip. So it was like a directly down the middle.
Yeah. Your left side controls your right side controls your left.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
And that's also why I think the whole auditory thing with speaking Spanish occurred.
That's interesting. Yeah. Are you of Hispanic descent?
Not at all.
Oh. So where'd the Spanish come into play?
So I learned it in preschool growing up, and I also had like a Cuban nanny.
Oh,
so there was like the two mix of that. I kind of learned Spanish. So I mean, that's like a pretty cool, crazy part about me.
That's pretty wild. Yeah.
But like growing up, like I had like a 99.9% chance that it would never go away. And then like magically one day it went away. In my whole life, like there's been little things about defying odds. Like I was blessed in my upbringing of having like great parents, and like a great family environment to grow up in. However, you know, I dealt with overcoming odds in that. And then like I was the slowest kid, at Ponte Vedra High School for track and field. The first year I got picked on. They called me Sean Pot. And then I ended up becoming, not only by my sophomore year, the fastest runner at Ponte Vedra, but also one of the fastest sophomores in the nation.
Oh, wow.
Which gave me the chance to go to Nike National Elite Camp, where I ran with people from like Kenya and all over, and was able to get my time down to like a ridiculous speed there unofficially. Sadly, it's not on the record. On the record, I think my time's like 9:40, but off for the 2 mile, but off the record, I'm at
9:40 for 2 miles. Holy
off
crap.
the record, I'm at like 9:30.
Damn, man. Look at you. And I had that written in my notes too. No worry. I saw the track and field, but that's awesome, man. Like obviously, you know, going through that situation, obviously waking up paralyzed and everything. Tell me kind of how that situation happened. So you woke up and just one part of your, or one half of your body just was not moving.
Yeah. One half was not, like, there was like, I was making like a gargling sound. And then like the teacher was like, something's wrong during nap time. And then that's when I got woken up. Obviously like firefighters came in, put me on a stretcher, sent me to, I want to say like at least 2 hospitals, to kind of run me through like body scans, all that kind of stuff, brain scans. And yeah, I mean, so that the background on that though is why I got involved with Best Buddies. Yeah. Was due to the fact of, I had to deal with disposition, like a mental cognitive disposition growing up. So I think it's important to be there for people who are going through stuff like that that's outside of their own control.
No, I'm really big on that as well, man. Like, as you were saying, you know, I was very lucky as well. My parents divorced when I was young, but both my parents were still involved in my life very, very thoroughly. And then also I had great step parents that have taken care of me still to this day. You know, like I still have to talk to my stepdad on the daily basis of like, how do I do this? Or even talk to my dad about how do I do these situations and everything. And, you know, the main thing, like you brought up the Best Buddies, or I brought up the Best Buddies part. I saw them, man, just get treated and ridiculed for like every single day in school, man. And it was just, I hate that. You know, it's just like these kids, they didn't choose to be this way. And a lot of times they're smarter than most people that are walking around, man. And I think that's the part that's lost for a lot of people, is they see either like motor tics or they see, you know, them act out in a certain way when they're overstimulated. But at the end of the day, if you actually sit down and talk with them, they may not be interested in what you're talking to them about, but they lock in on one thing and they're amazing at it. They're savants. It's really interesting to see.
It's nuts. And I think like growing up getting picked on because of my epilepsy, like I went from being like this kid who always got picked on to then like I ended up, you know, being friendly to everyone, because I understood growing up like getting picked on, and then once my seizures subsided and stuff like that, I stopped getting picked on. So I went into, you know, high school, transitioning into high school, and that's really where I kind of, you know, made a name for myself, because I was nice to everyone. Like I ended up being part of senior men, which is a big thing there, and kind of took charge of that. I held a position in the student body, sort of things as well. And I was an athlete, so I was friends with all the athletes. I was friends with everyone. I understood kind of coming from where I grew up getting picked on, you know, I know what it's like to have a disability and have to deal with that. So it was really important to me to have these people feel like they're seen and they're heard and they're understood and, you know, they're valued.
No, I totally agree, man. The world's already hard enough, you know, for something that you can't personally control. It's rough for some of these kids, but you see them grow up, and like with the Best Buddies program, it's cool to sit down and it gives you a better perspective on the difference in people. You know, like for me growing up, I was very lucky to have parents that, you know, they didn't care if people were black, white, green, purple, gay, straight. They said, just be nice to people, man. You don't know what's going on in the background of their life, what their home life is like. And that's where I'm very blessed to have a family that taught me that, because I, like with what I do for a job currently, I do pest control, and I go into houses, man, and I see these people who have 10 kids walking around with full diapers and not being taken care of and all this. And it really makes you kind of look at people and just, you don't know what's going on in their life. And just if you're just nice to people, that could change their day. That could change their life, man. It's just being kind to people. And I feel like that's lost with what you see on, you know, not all social media is bad, but I feel like there's a lot of parts on it that you see where people are like pranking people or just being rude to people, and you're not being an actual person. You're not looking at the actual person, you're seeing through them.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But no, that's awesome, especially with the athletic part, man. That's crazy. I am slow as hell. I did play sports growing up. I played football, as I was telling you before, and I did play basketball. That was most of my athletic career. Did AAU basketball. I didn't make my high school team, unfortunately, even though I'm 6'5". It's just, you know, it was just the thing. But playing sports was a huge part of my life. What all did you run in track? You said you ran the 2 mile, obviously had a pretty good time there. I had a buddy who ran track and field at Kernan. Did you run multiple events, or was that your main event that you did?
Yeah. So also did a little bit of basketball too, but when I went to go to high school after I was going to go do basketball like sophomore year, and then when I went to go out for it, my coach was like, "Nah, you're doing running." He's like, "You're not doing that. There's too much chance for like injury in between it," because he kind of saw the potential. But did cross country as well, so did the 5K race, and then on the track side of things, I ran anything from like my freshman year. I kind of did more or less like the 200, 400, and kind of got into the 800. Coming into my sophomore year, my primary focus was on the 1 mile, 2 mile, and 800.
Damn.
Yeah. So I ended up breaking my foot my junior year, and that's when like kind of all my scholarships went away, just because like back then, you know, I was a little cocky. So after doing the Nike National Elite Camp, we ended up transferring over to team camp. There's a guy named Victor Solar there, and kind of like we were going back and forth on like who's fastest. So on the cross country side of things, so kind of like raced them up the mountain, kind of let my pride take over versus being smart about things, because I was like, I'm going to take Nike National Elite Camp seriously and like really train hard and push myself with like these top athletes. And then I went to go transfer over to doing the cross country, and I was like, hey, with like the team, and I was like, I was going to take this chill, run with like the back of the pack, like don't try to push it. But then I ended up pushing myself. As a result of that, ended up getting a stress fracture, continued running on the stress fracture, ran at Katie Caples, which is Bishop Kenny. That's their 5K race that they have. Ran at that race, ended up breaking my foot on mile 1, ended up finishing that race on a broken foot. I ran that whole thing on a broken foot. Ended up running 1840 for a 5K on a broken foot. After that, I was in like denial, taped my foot up, kept running on it like week after week. And then I was like, finally, like, all right, I should probably get it checked out. Ended up going to JOI, Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute. Phenomenal doctors there. Loved them. Great people. Had my foot kind of put in a cast. Then I ended up training on a zero gravity treadmill to kind of get through it.
Is that the one in the water?
No, so this one actually was built up with pressure. So what they do is they put you in like these spandex shorts, kind of like swim trunks like you'd wear like competitively.
I swam as well. Yeah. I forgot to say that as well. Yeah.
So kind of like those swim trunks, like they'd go up to here, but they'd have a zipper up here, and they would actually zip you into the machine, and then they would increase the pressure, and it would be like running on the moon. So like depending on how much pressure you're able to put on your feet, they would adjust it. And then I did that in PT, and then I ended up going into trying to work with one of the new coaches, because my old coach had actually retired after my sophomore year, and income the junior coach was a new guy, and he just like knew me as what I was back when, you know, I was a racehorse. Like, but then if you treat something as a racehorse and you just keep running it into the ground, then it's going to keep getting injured and it's not really going to work out. So, you know, he was yelling at me when I got back. He's like, you're why are you running so slow? All this stuff. And for me, it wasn't a good coaching environment. So I ended up acquiring a private coach, Todd Williams. He is one of the longest Olympic record holders in the U.S.
Okay.
He held the Gate River Run record for the longest time.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like awesome guy. I heard him speak at Nike National Elite Camp, and then I had my parents contact him and ended up training with him. And then there's also a training group out of Bulls, and they have like a private like training group there. I think it's like something with Sun, like maybe a Sun. I don't know if it's still around anymore, but ended up training with Todd and with them, and ended up transitioning into like the 800s. So I really made my focus into that shorter race, and ended up getting my 800 time down to like 154, 153. Yeah.
Dang, man, you were moving.
Yeah. So I can move at like different speed.
That's
different
crazy.
lengths. You know, I have pretty crazy records, but it's something of the past.
It happens, man. You know, I look back on fondly of like playing sports growing up, and then I remember when my basketball coach was just killing me, you know, just running, just run. And then I also had a trainer outside of work, outside of basketball as well, because I just wasn't picking things up correctly. There was guys who were just miles and miles in front of me, and you're good, man. And I was just not comprehending what I needed to do. So especially me being a bigger dude, you know, my size in the NBA is a point guard, but here in the regular world is like I'm a center.
Yeah.
So, or center or power forward. So he taught me how to dribble a little bit more, you know, better conditioning. You know, that was probably the best shape in my life I ever was. I could run miles and miles and miles. Nowadays, you know, I run, like I go to the gym, run 1.5 miles, 2 miles. I'm like, like just like,
I know the feeling.
Yeah, man. But
I transitioned to weightlifting this past. I mean, I've been doing it like 5 years. I want to get into competitively.
Okay.
Bodybuilding specifically, so physique.
Okay.
But yeah, no, cardio has gone from like running crazy in high school to now like I don't really run.
Nah, man. I just do it for me. Like I'm not like ripped up in any way, shape, or form, but I just kind of do it to keep my muscles and my tendons and everything just strong. Because, you know, as you get older, man, you don't want to be tearing your knee going outside playing with your kid. You know, you don't want to be playing basketball with your kid and you just go down and you're like holding your knee. But no, like sports are an amazing thing. I feel like it's a great tool for you to help socialize and meet new people and everything. To get a little bit more into your life, do you have any brothers or sisters? Are you an only child?
No, so I have a brother and a sister. So brother has 2 kids, Luke and Olivia. Luke's godfather, great brother. He currently is at Florida Surety Bonds, which is one of the biggest surety companies in Florida. So that deals with like making sure construction jobs get done. Nice. So they go in, work with the sureties to essentially back the projects to make sure the people are good to do it. And if they don't, then they find like a replacement. And I may be butchering it a little bit. Good, I don't really know the ins and outs outside of the 10-year anniversary video that we did for them.
I bet he's doing all right now with all these businesses coming to Jacksonville.
Yeah, he's doing really good. They actually, a recent project they just backed was the Friendship Fountain downtown.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that build out was actually on, my brother was a part of that. Yeah.
Nice, dude. Yeah. What about your sister?
Sister is the CFO of one of the largest acquisition companies in America. Yeah.
Dang, man. So it just sounds like a family full of winners.
Yeah.
What about your parents, if you don't mind me asking?
So my mom worked for Johnson and Johnson, primarily for most of her career, and then my dad's kind of like what I idol. You know, he's had several jobs throughout his whole entire life. Started off, and I may again butcher kind of like the route of things on this because it's only been told a couple times to me, but I mean, did anything from working on the stock market to running the first ever commercial location for McDonald's to running all McDonald's finance on the East Coast.
Whoa.
To being an entrepreneur, opening up his own business, to now, you know, then going into J&J when he saw that and out in that business to like a time frame where the business was shifting, and he was like, you know, he exited out of that venture, went into working for Johnson & Johnson to close out that side of things. And then growing up the whole time, he was like, I'm gonna have a farm. Like him and Warren Buffett right back and forth. Him and Shad Khan right back and forth.
That's
like
badass.
Wayne Weaver right back and forth. He used to do like hair. He owned like basically essentially a bunch of salons across Jacksonville. So like connected with like Harold and Harold, the Greek Gate properties. So if you know like the Gate property, they own like Lodge and Club, and Club, also all the Gate gas stations. So,
of course.
Ironically, me working with Dailies and not Gate, but yeah. So like growing up, you know, he said that he was going to start a farm. So now he's Farmer Bob, and now we have a farm that uses regenerative farming techniques. So the proper route of farming, trying to make the land last as long as possible and being a tenant of the land,
not depleting all the nutrients out of the ground and everything.
Exactly. So right now we have around, I want to say like 35 acres with everything you can think of except for milking cows and horses.
Nice, man. Yeah. That's kind of our goal. Is me and Shannon have talked about for a while. I want a piece of land. You know, I want to be able to make it like more of like an animal sanctuary, have cows, pigs, all that kind of stuff. I told you about how I had a mini pig when we first started dating, and just owning a piece of land, I feel like, is the way of going. I would like to be able to not just have neighbors. I don't want to be able to reach out of my house or my apartment and be able to touch my neighbor's house. I don't like that personally in any way, shape, or form, but that's amazing, man. Yeah. To tell you a little bit about my family, my mom, so my parents are originally from up to like Jersey, Philadelphia. My dad grew up in Indiana, but moved up to Jersey with the family, and they moved down to Jacksonville. My mom works for a company called CSX. I'm sure you know who CSX is. And then my dad moved down here, worked for a company called Roll Call for a little bit, and then he moved over to Microsoft. He became head of sales for the whole East Coast of the United States, everywhere from New York all the way down to Puerto Rico. And I got to meet amazing people from that and learn a lot. I've watched my parents, you know, go from divorcing, starting at zero again, to growing. And just like what you have, you've seen just nothing but growth and show you what's kind of possible in the world if you just keep working hard, shake a few hands, go out and network and everything, and be able to grow as a person. And it's crazy to see. My dad doesn't work for Microsoft anymore, but I got to do cool events. I got to go play Madden on the Jumbotron at the Jag Stadium, you know, get to go meet all kinds of, I've got to meet Tom Coughlin a couple times, or go meet Kelly Coughlin, his daughter, and just get involved. And it's a crazy thing out there, man. You hear of what your parents can do, and you're like looking at them like, you're a superhero almost. Oh yeah. And it's a crazy thing, man. It sounds like your family's been very successful for a very long time. I love to hear that.
And I mean, it's also thanks to like, you know, when I look at my parents, there's like different things that I admire in both of them. Like my mom didn't let her situations define her end outcome.
Okay.
So, you know, she was growing up, you know, up in Cleveland, and my grandfather left her and my mom to survive in the US and took my two uncles back over to Ireland.
Whoa.
Yeah. So like talking about going from like the mean streets of Cleveland to now, you know, country club Mary to now farmer Mary, like, you know, I look at that and I think about, I don't let my current situation define my outcome. So like, that's the one thing with her. And then on my dad's side, just his worth ethic, his ability to do what he says he's going to do. So like everything that drives the needle forward for me. So like if I'm in a dark space and like think about my mom, and I think about how when she was in that dark space, she didn't let that define her. And then with my dad, you know, being a man of my word and doing what I'm saying I'm going to do, and also, you know, putting the family first.
No, we're big on that as well, man. Like that's my driving force, and be able to talk to them and get the wisdom from them, because there's times where, you know, you're close to my age, man. There's times where you're like, am I ever going to do this? Like, am I really going to, you know, I'm saying I'm going to do this, but where are my building blocks? What's the first step? And I'm lucky enough to have a family who supports and wants me to succeed. So they're willing to, you know, kind of help me get past some of those trade secrets or, excuse me, get, maybe a foot in the door in some way, shape, or form, or also just tell me what I need to hear and say, get your ass out there and work. And I've been lucky enough to do that. Me and Shannon have worked multiple jobs at one time to make sure bills are paid. Mommy and dad don't pay my bills. I've moved out a couple days after I turned 18. Me and her weren't even dating yet. She helped me move out of my mom's house.
That's awesome.
Into my first apartment. And it's a good thing, man. My mom's from a place in Pennsylvania called Altoona, population 1,000, one street light. And she's like, this isn't what I want to live. It's farm country. She's like, I don't want to be a farmer. I want to go live in the city. I want to go grow. I want to build something of my own rather than just staying what the generations of other parts of my family have done, just stayed in the same spot and be content with what they have there rather than going out and seeing what else is in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, man, it's definitely a big thing. But to get a little bit more into you as well, let's get into your business, man. So obviously with everything that you do, man, a lot of content, kind of describe exactly what true culture is, man. I would say I've been seeing a lot of different things, but I would like to hear your description of it.
Yeah, so True Culture Marketing is a company where we go in, we figure out where your problem's at within your business. So sometimes it's a content side of problem, or sometimes it's getting leads in. So we kind of go in and we create a curation plan to solve your issues internally. It even could be so deep down to like a white glove service on the fact of like, maybe you have structural issues, maybe you don't have the proper CRM in place. So kind of going in, figuring out what the real issue is, because sometimes clients will come with an issue and they think that's the issue, but when you really take an in-depth look at their company, you find where there's other issues.
Okay.
For example, I was looking at Caterpillar, right? Yep. The massive construction company. So I met with their chief marketing officer, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, all right, like, I think you have a content problem, like looking at it. Cause if you look at every other big brand in comparison to yours, you're not getting the engagement that you need to be seeing. You don't have a high following. Like there's areas where you definitely can improve upon in that. And then after meeting with them, I realized that they had a accreditation problem. So like the marketing team, they'd be getting in these leads right through online, and the leads would be sent to their sales team, but their sales team primarily works off of referrals. So like if you already have like someone you're working with in the construction space, they'd be like, hey Jim, Baylor's really good, with Caterpillar, let me connect you. Boom. It's a warm lead that way versus a cold lead. So they were sending their cold leads and their warm leads to the same spot rather than having two separate teams that handle it. Like if you have someone who's only focusing on the cold leads, like you're going to get the proper accreditation on that, because they're not just going to be worried about the warm leads.
Of course.
So that's where I went in. I was like, this is your problem. Like after having like a 2-hour discussion with her, I'm like, your problem isn't the fact that, that you're not getting the right accreditation. The problem is the fact that you need to create two separate teams. Like you don't need to pass the leads to the warm guys. Let the warm guys handle what they're doing right now and make a completely separate sales team that only deals with cold leads.
It's two separate things.
Yeah, that's the only way you're going to get your accreditation, because they're like, well, when we go in our, our annual meetings or our quarterly meetings, we're getting all these leads, but they're not getting closed because guess what? They're focusing on the warm and not the cold.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. No, that's actually a really good point. That's actually a very important point, as well as like with what I'm doing now. So my at the pest control company, I'm actually leaving this company and moving over to a different business or different venture. I'm moving over to sales as well. I'm moving over to a company that does like car wraps, and they like do the wraps that you put on the wall. So different things of promotion and everything. And that is a big thing, man. And I've worked in sales jobs in the past and different things. And you're right, man. A lot of times people are going to go for the warm leads 99% of the time. It's a little bit less friction. They're looking for that rather than cold calling, which is a lot more painful in that area. People will hear 100 no's before they get that first yes. And that really kind of, I'm trying to think of the word, kind of stops them from what they want to do.
Yeah. And I think like having like in this, I touched on this a little bit in the OG Sessions podcast when we talked about it, but it's like you'd always prefer a warm handshake. So that's also where content kind of comes into play. Because if you can make content and have people be able to get to know you as like a business owner or as an individual, and people can kind of get to know you prior to meeting you, it's a warm lead versus like if you have no idea who I am, because like half the people don't even know who they work for because they're not making content, so they don't really understand how they are because they don't have access to them on the day-to-day either.
No, that's definitely a big thing. And as you were saying, when it comes to sales, you're selling yourself a lot of the times. You're going out there shaking hands. How's your family? Where are you from? Getting a little bit of background knowledge, and you go back and forth a little bit, and they know you after a little bit, and it makes it easier for them to do business with you. That's kind of what I do with this is, I promote people. That's the main thing. You know, that's why I kind of get the background noise, or not noise, the background story of the person, so people can kind of get to know you and make it a little bit easier to start that conversation. And that way they already have a little bit of knowledge about you when they come in to talk. Because as you were saying, a lot more people it's a little bit easier to do business with someone when you know a little bit about them, rather than just hey, how you doing? I'm John. I'm Connor. Blah, blah, blah. And just shaking hands and kind of doing that cold thing. So that's really good, man.
Yeah. And I think a big piece on sales too that you could take from this is like, a lot of times people we live in a society that's instant gratification, right?
Yes.
You're scrolling and it's like 15-second video, you scroll another 15-second video, you scroll, and if it doesn't grab your attention immediately, like you throw it out. So it's already kind of rewiring our brain for instant gratification, where, you know, we don't like the delayed gratification, the delayed yes. And I think in sales, it's about building long-term relationships. Like I've had clients now that have been on for over a year, but it took a year to get that client. Like I had to wine and dine them in Jacksonville, and then they would bring me out to where they're at and they'd wine and dine me. And then it was like a back and forth relationship of wining and dining, getting to know, kind of talking about it. And then eventually it led to a sale. But it's like a lot of people give up if they don't get that immediate gratification, or if it's like a week later or a month later. But if you can just extend your time horizon on things and just kind of like let it back and ease off, like you'll get the sale. It's just a lot of people don't understand when it comes to sales, it's about long-term relationship building.
It's a dance. It's really much a dance. And when it comes to that stuff as well, is you don't want just a one-time customer. You want a follow-up customer. You know, you want that person to come back and, you know, and it continue.
That's huge. And I think like a lot of agencies have put a bad taste in people's mouths, because it's like they'll just like turn and burn people. So like I make sure when I go into, like, first of all, like our agency's doing really good. Like we're super successful. Nice. So it's like I don't need to have an extra client on. So like I'm not even pushy. I hate when people have commission breath. It's like you go in, you're like, I need this check. Like people can smell that. People can smell that hot ass commission breath off your mouth. Yep. Like, so I always go in, I'm like, no stress. Like if you want to go through with it, go through with it. Like, and you know, eventually like we do have like a certain amount of people we do bring on. So like I will let them know, like, hey, we only have, like, I'll create the scarcity and urgency on the fact that like we only have this spot, but it's because we truly only have that spot open before I can scale and hire on new talent and put new people into place, so that way we can handle more clients. But outside of that, I'm just like, hey, like whenever you're like, make a decision whenever you want. I'm not gonna pressure you. Like, would love to work with you. I know no one else has the capabilities we have on the East Coast, especially in the 3D and 2D sector of things. Like anything you can think of, we can make happen.
So that was something we were talking about before the podcast started. So explain to me about the 3D part. You know, I was talking about some videos that you posted, and I thought that was 3D, and I was 100% wrong. So explain to me this 3D space that you're talking about. I would love to learn more about it. Yeah,
so it's a newer space that we've gotten into, but like I just brought on like one of the most badass 3D guys. Like we can make any object you can like think of. I can make it from scratch. Okay. So basically, if you're like, hey, I want this mic stand to be in a 3D opener, or for example, like when you look at Apple's websites, the parallax scrolling, when you scroll, there's an animation that occurs.
Yes.
We're actually doing that for one of our clients right now. We just finished the video for it. But basically what you do is you go in, you create a 3D model of the object. So you have to know the material of the object, the size of it. So we'll go in, basically figure out the size dimensions, and we've even gone off of it when we don't know the size dimensions, and it turned out immaculate. So you basically create the object, you put the skin on the object, and then you have to go in and then do the whole animation process on the object itself, turning it into 3D animation video.
Wow, that's really interesting, man.
Yeah, it's nuts.
You don't have to tell the gentleman's name, but where did you find, or the woman, excuse me, where did you find this person?
I actually found them due to my video editor that I hired.
Oh, there you go.
Shout out Saeem.
Nice, man.
He's great. I love him.
And are you the founder of this company, right?
Yeah.
So how long has your company been around for now?
5 years as of, I want to say about 2 months ago.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
A lot of companies don't make it past 2, so that's really big.
5 years. I think like the statistics, like 95% of businesses don't make it past 5 years.
No, I definitely agree with you, man.
So and we're not stopping now.
That's right. I say all gas, no brakes. Yeah. So when it came to finding your company, when did you kind of come up with the idea for this? Because it's a very interesting idea. Like I was looking into it, reading up on it, and this is something that, especially in today's world where social social media, content creation, and obviously everything else that you guys do, taking a audit of a company is a really big thing nowadays. Yeah. How did you come up with this idea?
Yeah. So I originally started off kind of in college. I worked for Red Bull Energy Drinks, great company. Loved working with them.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then outside of that, my only other job was with a company called Social Academy, which was a college nightlife promotions company. They ranged anywhere from like Sweet to Mavericks, and we throw events. So
it's how the Jordan boys came into this. I remember we were talking about that.
Yeah. So I kind of like was involved with that, and I was their main guy for a long time. And they treated me really well, but they didn't treat the people that I brought on well. And I'd bring them in like a new promoter, and they'd be bringing in 100 people, and they're like, find people who want to work for free. I'm like, dude, no one wants to work for free. Like, you have to pay people. Like, that's messed up. So I just saw the malice and mistreatment of my people that I brought on. So I made a company called JSO, play on words. Jacksonville, obviously there's Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Yeah. Shout out JSO. But Jacksonville Social Organization.
Okay.
So I created this with my friends, and we ended up doing our first ever event. I wanted to bring like a collegiate happy hour to Jacksonville, kind of like FSU has Potbellies, UCF has Pub, I think was the name of it. And basically I wanted to put together an event where we could like all come together at like Friday at 5 p.m., have ridiculous drink specials, brought Red Bull in on it.
Nice.
Involved Red Bull. And we made a bar that was making $15,000 in 3 hours. So like in a whole night on a Friday, they make $1,500 and they made $15,000.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the event was super successful. We ended up probably doing like 20 buses worth of students out from UNF. And then did a bunch of other events kind of after that. And it was fulfilling, but it wasn't as fulfilling as I'd want it to be. So I was like, hey, why was it successful? It was the marketing campaign we put behind it. We did a whole content launch. We went to Fort George, shot a bunch of like the popular kids from like our college and people involved in like sororities, fraternities, to kind of at Fort George showing off like the lifestyle. Then we'd shoot different promotions at the bars, and then we'd also, do direct marketing as well. And we were like, why were we successful at the end of the day? And it was marketing. And I was like, wouldn't it be so much cooler if we could help businesses out, and really apply my marketing degree that didn't teach me anything. Yeah. Marketing degrees are a joke. Until I get involved, I want to teach at UNF at some point, not yet, but eventually, like, I really want to get into teaching marketing.
That'd be cool.
Like applicable, like running ads. Like, why aren't they teaching people how to run ads? Why aren't they teaching, like, the biggest takeaway I can say that I learned was that Michael Jordan did a commercial, LeBron did a commercial over in China, and he was like balling up on the spirits and did like a slam dunk, like crossed up all these spirits and did a slam dunk. And they're like, why is this commercial bad? And I was like, well, in Chinese culture, like your elders are held at the highest respect.
That's disrespectful.
So, yeah, so super disrespectful. So that's why that Nike commercial didn't fly.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But like, that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
So I really learned a lot then transferring over. So then that's when we started True Culture Marketing. I closed up my ventures at JSO, opened up True Culture Marketing, and we've been rocking ever since.
Damn, man. That's really good.
Yeah.
I like that. Because I can just tell like the entrepreneurship behind you. You have a fire that you want to get things done. You want to do something in a specific way, and you want to do it right. You don't want to half-ass it or anything.
Yeah. I'm a problem solver end of the day.
No,
like, that's like when people ask me like, what do you do? Like, describe yourself. I'm like, I'm a problem solver. Like, I try to find out where the problem is, and I try to fix problems. Like, innately at the most simplistic terms, like that's who I am. Right now I wear like the marketing hat, content hat side of things, but like, this isn't my only venture I want to get into. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'm a problem solver. I want to solve more problems for society and try to give back in a larger way outside of just the marketing.
Oh man, that's kind of our goal for this, man, is like, with us, we just try to help promote people in Jacksonville who we find interesting and who are also doing good things, man, because we get hit up all the time. Thank you for everybody who hits us up, by the way, but people hit us up and I'll look on their social media. They have one video, they have one thing, or they're selling drugs online or all this other stuff, and I'm like, guys, I'm like,
or they got a bunch of fake followers.
Yeah, and that's actually a big thing as well. Like with us, you know, we don't have the craziest social media following in the world. 100% we don't. But everybody that we have on our social media are people who have followed us organically. You know, like I started off with just, as I was telling you, I just started off with just doing audio for the longest time. And now I finally caught up and finally been doing video. And that's starting to work a little bit more and starting to get people out there. You know, we get reached out to now from people who are like, oh, I saw you on YouTube. I really enjoyed your content. I'd like to talk to you and everything. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'm not just talking into a void. Because for the longest time there, you know, the first year it was a little shaky. I'm like, dang, what am I doing? Just trying to find my voice and trying to find where I want, what kind of direction I wanted to go into. And as you're saying, man, video is a huge thing nowadays.
It's massive.
It is. It really is. Everybody is on their phones 99% of the time. You know, you're walking down the street, people are looking at their phone. You're sitting on the bus, people are on their phone. You know, you're at work, people are on their phone.
You're on the toilet, you're on your phone.
Yeah, man. It's just
hopefully you wash your hands afterwards.
Yes, please, and wash your phone as well. But no, that's definitely a big thing. What are some things that you notice that are common mistakes that you see with people, whether it's social media or just that kind of plan, whether it's for their business or they're making content for, say, something like a podcast? What are some of the major mistakes?
Inauthenticity.
Okay.
So like a lot of people try to put on like a facade for social media versus just being how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was talking with someone about it, and I was like, you know, I want to have like a nice car. I was talking with OG about it, and I was like, I want a Conan Zeg, you know, eventually, which is like a really crazy expensive car.
I'm aware of what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know what that is. They look at me like, huh? I'm like, think about a Pagani, but cooler.
Yes. and very expensive.
And Pagani's already like a $7 million car. So like, I want to have a nice car, but it's like, I'm not going to go flex a car that I don't have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that having authenticity, like Alex Hormozy, one of my favorite people that I follow. I don't know if you're familiar with him. I don't think I am. But he was like a multimillionaire driving a Prius with a dent in it, a beat up Prius. And they were like, why are you driving this Prius? And he's like, does it matter if I have a beat up Prius? Like, I'm a multimillionaire.
Exactly.
Like, and then he bought, I think it was like a Rolls Royce or a Bentley. And he's like, dude, it feels like the same thing.
You're still driving from A to B, you know?
Yeah, no, he's like, it didn't really change that much. Like he was like, I should have just kept driving the Prius.
No, that's definitely a big thing. Yeah. I can definitely see the authenticity, because I'll see not everybody here in Jacksonville, not hating on anybody, by the way. I'll see their content and then I'll meet them in person. I'm like, that's not what I see online, you know, and everything that we put on here is truly us. You know, like one of the series that we did for here is we did a thing called Sunday Hangouts, and it was during the time where we were getting married. And, you know, I was taking people through the process of like, you know, us finding vendors, where we're going to get married. I talked about us, like me wanting to propose to her. Literally the day we got back from the proposal trip, we talked about it and walking people through the process. Another big thing that's big on here for us as well is mental health. You know, I've struggled with depression, you know, suicidal thoughts, all that stuff for a very long time. I'm a very happy person, but there's also very hard lows for me growing throughout life. Even still to this day, I still struggle with it. But I find talking through it and, you know, talking about my experience can help, you know, even if it just helps one person. That's what I want to put out there. It's just being authentic. You know, what you see on camera here or over the podcast is the same person I am outside of this. You know, I can't lie for over 100 episodes. It would get very tiresome and I would slip up sooner or later. You know, so it's just the main goal is just put yourself out there, man. I feel like a lot of people are scared to be authentic about themselves and put themselves out there. But I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like that's where you get your most, you know, more people connect with what you're talking about rather than just sitting there lying to them. Be like, yeah, I'm a multimillionaire, you know, I'm driving this or I'm flexing this or I have a Rolex on my wrist. You know, I could go spend money. It's not like I'm broke in any way, shape or form, but that's not the important stuff for me. What's important for me is making memories. What we spend most of our money on is going on trips, spending time with family, getting, you know, having date night, you know, going doing that kind of stuff, because that's what I want to spend my money on. I don't really care about the Rolex and all the shit. Like, you know, we spent money on all this stuff, you know, we just
beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We just put the shelf up and, you know, we've been like what we do with this. This is actually the first episode with the shelf. What we're going to be doing is different artists that have given us stuff or people that have given us stuff over the time of doing the podcast. We're putting this stuff up and we're going to switch it out every single week. So like,
that's sick.
Yeah, this guy right here is Julian Gasca. He made us a free pair of customized Air Force Ones. Hand painted them. The red line around the Nike swoosh is the actual light. I can click those on. They actually light up. You know, there's a couple artist stuff up there. There's a Happy Dad hat up there. Shout out to the Jort boys for getting us those hats.
Yeah.
And we're
have you worn those?
So that's the thing about those. He asked me if I wanted them to be wearable. Those are not wearable because there's a thing on the inside of them.
I was like, those would be so hard if you have like some big event for like podcasting that you attend.
Hey, I may hit him up to get another pair. It's just, I love them so much and I'm a little hard on shoes, but no, it's just, you know.
See if you can put it in the back, like put a little button in the back.
That's true.
Buy that little Nike where you can just press the back, you know?
That'd be sweet. Yeah, he does great stuff. He's done work with the Jaguars, or even this guy right here, a great friend of mine, and John Hawkins, by the way. Shout out to John. He did just get into a car accident and was actually drug under the car. He was in his motorcycle, wow. Yeah, and he got drug under the car. So if you guys have been seeing me post the GoFundMe, please go, share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff for him. He's a great dude, and he actually painted that there as well. So we just try to promote all the great people that we've had on the podcast in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. It's not charging anybody. I bought everything that you see up here has pretty much been bought besides those shoes. He did give those to me for free.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. It's just being authentic and, wanting to work with local Jacksonville, man. I love my city, and I've been very lucky that people are giving back to me.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I'm super big too on the whole like traveling and experiences. I try to do it so the way I kind of structure my month too is I try to like work all month and then give myself like 4 or 5 days. Like I'll work through the weekend. Yeah. Like I'll work at 3 a.m. Like it really doesn't matter. Like half of my team probably thinks I'm psycho because I'm like, hey, like they're like, do you get sleep? Because I'm like texting them at like 3 a.m. Text like, and there's like on some of them like I don't, but like there's a few like I know my editors are like up like late at night, like
that's me. That's me all the time. Anytime I'm doing a YouTube video, anytime you see something posting up on Monday, I was up at 3 a.m. getting that done. Like
I respect like the barriers of workplace because I know this is me and it's my company, so I work around the clock on it. But it's like I understand like some people respect it. Like my old videographer Peyton, like he would like shut off at 9. I'd respect the shut off at 9. But yeah, that's super big, the traveling, and also like to touch up upon like the mental health side of things. Like what's big and a big thing for me to understand is like a lot of times people look for like there's a lot of outside pressures that people think like they're like, oh, I'm worried about what this person thinks of me or that person thinks about me. But then at the end of the day, like everyone cares about themselves. They don't care about you.
They're not thinking about you 99% of the time.
Yeah. 100%. And it's crazy to think that because like you're like, oh, like I'm so worried about this post I'm going to make. And this also will bring it full circle back to like advice. Like people also are too worried about what other people are going to think instead of just putting it out, and they never execute. And it's like end of the day, like people have so much stuff going on that they don't have time to consider what's going on with you. Like maybe they just had a kid and you don't even know that they just had a kid. Like one of my friends, I didn't know he had a kid for like probably about like half a year. I didn't know that my fraternity was having a kid until he hit me up like a week before the baby shower.
Oh
yeah. So it's like, I mean, and that's like two separate things.
I understand.
But but like just understanding that it's like, I also have so much going on that I probably didn't have time to concern myself with that. So understanding that, and then also like thinking about like looking at like the time frame of us, like after we die, after probably like let's say 100 to 200 years, like everyone's going to forget us.
Yeah.
So it's like you really start doing what you want to do in life, and you're not really concerned about outside pressure because like your parents are going to die before you. Like your kids might remember you, but then like do you know your great grandfather?
Great? No, I know my great grandfather, but that's about it.
See what I mean? But there probably was also a time he was probably close to your dad. Like you probably had your dad at like 20, given how things were back then. Like probably had your dad at like the 20s. Your dad probably had you in the 20s, and then now like we're having our kids in like the 30s. You know what I mean? So eventually, your great grandkids hopefully will remember you, but your great grandkids won't. And then eventually, we're gonna get engulfed, but the sun's gonna blow up and turn into a massive black hole, and everything's gonna get sucked into it. And then when you start thinking about life like that, it's like you might as well do what you want to do, and you might as well not let other people's opinions affect you. That's
a big thing, man. I have a little brother who's in high school now, and I tell him, I'm like, dude, stop caring what other people think. I'm like, I feel like that comes with age. Like people try to say wisdom comes as you get older. Yeah. And I remember in high school, dude, my hair was wrong. I was pissed. I'm like, fuck, the people are gonna think all this, blah blah blah. No one cared. Everybody's walking around because they're uncomfortable with themselves. And then as you get a little bit older, some people are still at our our age are still uncomfortable with themselves. I've just gotten to the point, man, where like I let that run my life for so long, and now I'm to the point where I'm just happy. You know, at the end of the day, I can only control what I can control, and that's what I continue to do. The main people who I care about, who are like, you know, happy with me, is my wife and, you know, my family members, because those are the main people who are important to me. If you let everybody else's opinion be important to you, there's gonna be a lot of times where you're really disappointed in yourself, because there's a lot of people who don't like me, and I don't care. It's just like, it is what it is. You don't pay my bills. You don't control what I do or what I put out. It's just live your life, man. Like, life's a lot shorter than what people think.
Yeah, I posted in, I've got this section on my Instagram called Social Sauce.
I was looking at it.
Yeah. So I haven't been as active as I want to be on it, just because work's been so busy, but I try to provide like sauce in there. And one of those pieces of sauce, which is like, I'll throw like either like little secrets as I find them that are coming out, or I'll post like motivation. And I'm like, people's opinions don't pay your bills. Read that again.
Yep.
So it's like, unless their opinions are paying your bills, like, you shouldn't really let it affect how you feel.
No, man. It's just,
or affect you.
Everybody has their own things. You know, everybody's going through mental things currently. You know, you don't know what's going on behind other people's minds or behind their eyes. Like, you're thinking something while you're looking at them in the eyes, and they're thinking something completely different. They're probably not even paying attention really most of the time. And it's really a big thing. But at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control. And that's why I always try to say to myself, whenever I'm thinking, you know, like, why did my reel only get so many views? And at the end of the day, I'm like, these are imaginary numbers. Why am I going to put my self-worth on that?
Yeah.
It's just, that's just what it is. And, you know, like, we do decent on social media now, you know, a couple thousand views here and there, just doing our thing. It's just, I look at it as more as being consistent. And if you're always trying to grow, like, get 1% better every single day. Yeah.
So to kind of recap it so far, I think authenticity, not being afraid to post stuff due to other people, like thinking what other people are going to think. And then, and not being like too much of a perfectionist. Like, it's good to be a perfectionist once you get the basics down, which is posting. Like, if you're not posting, like, you know, at least try to post like once a week, and then try to post, every single day on that one platform, then try to post every single day on every platform, you know? And I don't, now with the algorithm change, you really, to reword that, you really want to be posting like 3 to 4 times a week on it. So it's really not, they're not rewarding the massive reel out push anymore. It's kind of switched to being, you know, a more natural field of things, plus like posting your stories and like batching that out and leaving them up, and then waiting to post until the next day, until that time frame hits. But then the last thing too is like, on more of a marketing side, people like put in like, let's say $10 a day for testing, and that's not enough. Like, if you're on Facebook ads, you need to be running at least $150 to $100 a day.
Really? Yeah. So I have a question for you on that. So I haven't spent any money on that stuff, because I always felt kind of weird about putting my credit card information and all that stuff into social media.
It's safe.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I scaled a company to over $1 million a year on Facebook ads.
Okay. So, I trust you. I was always skeeved out by it. I don't know why.
And we had to dump like tens of thousands of dollars. So throughout the year, we probably, I mean, to get it to $1 million a year, we probably spent like over 100,000.
Really?
Yeah. So it's safe.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff that still might come up and occur, but like Facebook has stuff for that. Like,
gotcha.
I've heard of accounts getting like hacked before, but like, rest assured, unless you're like running numbers, like, you should be fine. Like, unless someone's stupid about the passwords too and stuff. Like for example, like, all my clients give me their password. It's like, I'm safe.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know why. It was always something that was weird for me, but obviously I see targeted ads. I see these ads that are put in like for things I'm looking at. I'm like, I know who you are. I would say I'm your demographic, basically, is what you're putting it out to me for.
Yeah. And like, also another mistake is like, a lot of people try to get specific, and I think you should go super, like, especially right now, like even Facebook will tell you go super broad. Do like a split test. So do 3 different creatives. So video wise, 3 different videos outperform photos. So do 3 different videos, 2 different captions, and 2 different call to actions.
Yes.
So you can test out basically 12 things at once. So the dynamic creative itself will test it out, but go super wide on your targeting, because Facebook will figure it out. Like, you just have to give it time. And also having, again, that time horizon, like, give it at least like 14 days to kind of figure out what it needs to do. And you just have to be comfortable with like dumping $1,500 to $3,000.
Yeah. So you were talking about the algorithm change. So if you don't mind explaining that to me, I know you talked a little bit about it on OG sessions and everything, but talk to me about that, because you were saying, obviously, a lot of people were just putting so much content out every single day just to outperform other people. What is the change in the algorithm that's really the big thing?
Yeah. So it went from also like kind of that instant gratification feeling to now it's more delayed. Like I was talking on OG sessions, to reference that again, on when I had a video that I posted in December and I'm still getting engagement on it till today.
Nice.
And this is like new people being driven to it and engaging with it. So whereas like previously there would be like a 2-week cap of like top engagement, now it's roughly like 4 weeks and beyond. So Instagram takes time to figure out who's going to vibe with your content. Essentially, they send it out to like 20% of your following and 80% out to non-followers, or 70-30, roughly around that number. Like who knows? I feel like it's always changing.
I understand.
Yeah. But roughly sends it out in that variable, and based off of how it engages with your following, then it'll push it out to more people.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of how the algorithm works. But the way it used to be like, all right, push out as much real content, post a reel every single day, constantly updating your story, engaging with other people prior to going on. And now it's really like trying to go into, I think, a more like organic, like they're pushing more long format too now. And there's no such thing as bad content. There's no such thing as too long content. There's just like bad content. Like,
of course,
you need to keep it engaging throughout. And like I just had a conversation literally today with it, where people are hiring an editor, and then the editor gave them a crappy piece of content back, and it's like, well, yeah, your engagement's going to be low because they're not using like little mini recaps within the longer format, or like engaging montages within the long format to keep people kind of involved throughout it. And also like hooks, like you want to hook people into it. So if you are going to go to a commercial break, or if you are going to go to something else, like how do you hook them onto the next part?
Gotcha.
Right.
And like that's the thing I'm still working on is, I post stuff every day. I post something every single day from the conversation of that week.
Yeah.
Like this past week, we sat down with a guy who does a lot of murals throughout Jacksonville. He's actually a Guinness Book of World Record holder for the largest 3D mural in Jax, or actually in the world. And
which one is it? Like which is it?
It's in the Brooklyn neighborhood of Riverside, and it's one of the Beastie Boys, and it's a 3D mural. And it was like, they came out and made sure everything was measured correctly. He had to record himself and, make sure no fugazi, nothing weird on that. And yeah, he ended up getting it. He said he's had it for, I believe, like a couple years now. But do you know, have you ever driven down the highway? I believe you're going downtown. There's one of Bill Murray on the wall. It's on Murray Hill of Jacksonville.
I think so.
Yeah, he painted that.
Did he do it through Art Republic?
I don't know.
I wonder if that's commissioned him, because I know I actually used to work with Art Republic when they did the big mural launch.
Oh, really?
And we actually covered a lot of the murals that went up across the city. That's a fun fact that most people don't know.
His name is Jason Tetlak, if you ever heard of him, but he's done stuff in all throughout the United States, and he's actually originally from Ohio as well, from Cleveland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but he's done all kinds of different murals, and I would see him around Jackson. I'm like, I wonder who did this. And then lo and behold, he emails me. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I guess the universe just answered my question right there. Really cool dude, and he's the one who's currently up on YouTube right now, but really cool guy. And it's just, I love seeing this kind of stuff. And when it comes back to going into the content kind of thing, I'm still learning my styles. I'm learning. I finally started doing videos. We've been doing videos for over a year and a half now, like little clips, trying to keep engagement. And also I've been finding that works really well for me is collaboration. Collaborating, helping bring other people. I'm trying to think of who have been my top collaborators. Really, like
that's huge. That's huge. You're cross pollinating,
exactly,
and that's a big thing. Like all of our campaigns that I work on with clients, like if you want to see big success, is like finding relative. Like for example, we're working on that massive project with dailies. Now I can kind of come out about it. I haven't said anything out on social media yet about it, except for like, hey, we're doing a shoot with dailies if there's any models interested. But that was also kind of last minute. We came into agreement on Friday, and I had to put together my whole crew, and like I had to get my main camera guy had to come all the way back from Orlando the next day to go shoot that video for the tailgating aspect that we're highlighting, and how to acquire models. But that's huge, like finding relative people, like relative influencers within their own retrospective space that you could see value in cross-pollinating with. For me, it'd be my clients, but for you, it'd be the podcast, and then bringing them on. And then when you do those collaborative posts, that's how you get new followers. That's how you get new engagement. And it also is a way, like I said, if they do have the relative following, it's a way to hack the algorithm too.
Yes.
Like let's say you're a smaller account, and let's say they're, you know, a large account, have more engagement, having that collaborative post like can then boost up your post.
Yeah. And that's how you found me, was doing through a collaborative post with the Jort Boys. And that's how a bunch of these have happened, is people have been lucky enough. I've been lucky enough to collaborate with some people, or a bunch of people really. And just that post, it's crazy. I'll get a message like, oh, I know him. I was like, I would be really interested. And I look through their page. I'm like, oh, I'd be interested in talking with you. Yeah. And it's just a big thing. I love when people are willing to collaborate with me. There are a lot of people who don't collaborate, and that breaks my heart a little bit, because I'm like, what are we doing? Or if I post something and I make a video and they don't even like it, they don't share it, they don't do anything, I'm like,
that's wild. Yeah, I'll collaborate with
I appreciate you.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
You're good at no, you're good at and
I love collaborating.
I would probably say 10% of the people do that. So I've been very lucky with most over 100 episodes. Everybody's been very shares everything, collaborates with everything. So I'm very lucky, and that's where I found how I've been able to grow. You know, like about a year and a half ago, we only had like 100 followers, and we're about to hit 400. You know, it's not thousands or anything, but it's movement. You know,
it's consistency.
Exactly.
And it's a long game. It's not a short game. And this goes back to everything on the time horizon. Yeah. Like, and when I talk to people about their company, and people give like a short time horizon, you can tell they haven't been in business for long. Because like I think long-term horizon, and like I think that's also what makes people successful, is the longer the horizon you can think about, the better off you're going to be. Yeah. But talking about like, I think underrated features that you could also utilize to leverage your account would be like going live.
Yes,
because if you think about, if you think about and collaborating live, so like outside of this, like maybe I do like a mini breakdown session with like some of your people that you go live with, and do like maybe a 30-minute breakdown session of something, or if you want to bring a guest back, maybe they have updates, like go on live, because that's one of the only features outside of currently the like social sauce, how I have social sauce, those groups, huge. Like if you don't have one, start one. Okay. Because what it does is it sends a ping text message out every time you send it. It's like getting a text. Yeah. So it sends a ping to their phone that you posted. Whereas if you post your content, it's not going to do it. There's no other feature on Instagram that does that.
It's really smart. I didn't know about that. Okay.
Now, another thing that you can utilize is going live on Instagram with like, for example, me, let's say we go live, because then it cross-pollinates just like a collaborative post would. Exactly. So it sends out another push notification to a bunch of my followers. Hey, Sean's going live, sends it out to yours, and that allows for the cross-pollination. So before collab posts were a thing and you could just tag people, that was the major route of like growth that I saw. And then now obviously with the social sauce aspect that we have with those groups, where you can push out those notifications in there, and it sends a text message, that's also another way to elevate your brand.
That's really interesting. I do need to start going live. That is one thing I have not done yet for the podcast thing. I kind of just post stories. I post, videos and pictures and all that, but the live part I feel like would be really good. And also they could also interact with me, get to know me better, and kind of get, rather than just what they see out here where they don't, interact with me. I have a buddy who runs a podcast here in Jacksonville who I think you'd be great with as well. It's a Graybeard podcast. Shout out to Graybeard. They do their podcast live. Okay, so everything's live. So they have their YouTube channel up, and people can write in there and put ask questions, and they're live now. I hop in there all the time and asking questions, show support, and I actually enjoy everybody they interview. So I think that'd be definitely a very smart thing to do. I do have a couple more questions for you. Yeah, so like I said, everything's been awesome, by the way. I appreciate you giving me some information. I will definitely keep in contact, man, because I find what you do very interesting. And obviously I'm a novice. I'm still learning, and I'm sure we're all still learning and growing every single day. But one of my major questions for you is, what is your goal with this company? Like, what is your plan? Is there like a certain number of people you're trying to get? Are you trying to, turn this company into multiple different things, or what are you kind of looking to do with this company?
Yeah. So my goal this year is to, I kind of look at financial goals. Okay. Primarily with it. But my goal this year is to, by the end of December, to hit $500K a year. Nice. And then the following year I want to hit $1 million. And then the year after that I want to hit 3 to 5 million. And then I want to exit.
Oh, so so exit, you mean sell it basically?
Yeah. And I might ride it out for like another year or two, but my goal really is to get out. I'm an entrepreneur, man.
Yeah. You want to you want to start another thing and keep on going.
Yeah. So, and that should be the goal of everyone, unless you want to like be stuck in something. And I think like, once I get to 3 to 5, like the evaluation on the exit should be in like the 50 mil, and then like I can go, or whatever it would be at, but it'd be upwards of that. Like if you get it to 3 to 5 mil, like you could exit out for a lot more. And then I could go back in and I could help people scale their business, because I would have gained the knowledge to understand what it takes to operate at, a $500,000 as a $500,000 business operator, what it takes to operate like that, what it takes to operate at $1 million, what it takes to operate at 5 million. Because there's different roadblocks that people get stuck at. People get stuck at the 100K mark. People get stuck at, the 300K mark. Now we're over the 300. So people now get stuck at the 500K mark. Then they get stuck at the 1 million mark. So it's finding the processes that need to go in place, the structure that needs to go in place, and the mindset that needs to go in place.
Exactly.
You always have to grow. Like I'm always continuously growing into the best optimized human being. Like I love Matthew McConaughey.
Oh yeah.
He had a speech and he was like, I'm chasing the guy 10 years in front of me. I'm always trying to be that 10 year, and I'm never going to reach it, but it's about pursuing perfection. And as a human being, we can never be perfect.
Exactly.
But, I'm always pursuing to become better every single day, whether it's getting up early, whether it's, investing in my body, whether it's in mindset, learning the newest trends, staying on top of it, becoming a better leader, becoming, a better person in general. I think, it's the constant state of evolving. And that's really where I'm focused on, is over the next couple of years, evolving into the person that I need to be to get to the caliber of a company that I want this to be.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah. You got me ready to run through a wall. I like that. No, that's a big thing. And consistent growth. That's the thing, is huge. Continuing to grow as a person, as a business owner, entrepreneur, obviously. That's a huge thing. People get comfortable. And that's the thing where I feel like people get stuck. They see a certain thing like, oh, I'm making enough money where I can kind of live my life and, do what I want to do. But they don't see that you want to keep going. You want to keep that growth. And as you said, perfection is something that we will never achieve, but it's something that we're always pursuing. And that was something that we should always try to pursue. So I like that, man. That's solid. And obviously I'll be keeping in contact with you, man. I like this stuff. I like learning, and, business is interesting to me. I love learning about it, like watching what my parents did and seeing how they've gone from, little man on the totem pole to up high, and like the steps they had to take, what they had to do. And also, being an entrepreneur, I find interesting as well. This is something as me as being an entrepreneur personally, getting my LLC, learning how to get sponsorships and, make money off what we're doing is a big thing as well. And I'm still learning to this day. I'm not perfect at it. I'm not a millionaire in any way, shape, or form, but I have goals of getting to that point.
But that's huge too. I mean, I feel like most people don't understand the U.S. tax structure.
Yes.
And I think this could be a big piece of value, like that I've never put out too.
Go right ahead.
Like everyone should have a business. Everyone should have a business.
You can write things off.
You could write things off. It's insane. Like people realize that the tax system is not built for employees. It's built for the business owner. Like I make a lot of money and I don't pay that much in taxes.
Yes.
And like all my employees, like I even try to structure it in a standpoint where like I'd rather have my employee have their own business and I can subcontract them and then pay them out through that business so then they can write it off, versus having like a traditional employee. Like I'd rather put them through that route. And like, I'm going to pay your business on this. And then it's a subcontract route. Cause it's like, if we go the other route, then it's setting you up for failure. So I think it's huge, like whether you don't even have a business yet, but you want to get started in something, or if you don't even want to get started in something yet, like just have a business.
Yes.
Like think about it as like an overarching, even for like a family structure, like your family structure should have their own business. And then you could put different assets in different ways, and that can protect you too. I mean, it's a layer of protection as well, like having a shell corp over your businesses. And then if your business gets sued, or if you get sued, having that money in a secure fund where it can't get touched. Like I think these are all big things that, like, again, school doesn't teach you about.
They don't want you to know. Yeah,
they don't want you to know. Like, if like best piece of advice, read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Phenomenal book. Like I love Audible. I love books, and I'm like I said, I'm constantly investing in myself. And like that's one of the things. Like I'm like that psycho in the gym that's lifting heavy weights, but I'm also listening to an audiobook.
I listen to podcasts and audiobooks all the time. Like another book,
podcast. Huge podcast guy too.
Another book I would recommend, and this isn't a political comment by the way. The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. That's a really interesting book because it breaks down a lot of concepts that people aren't really privy to.
Yeah.
And
people got mad at Donald because of the taxes, but he's just smart.
Yeah. And what he got
Can't hate Daddy T, sorry.
Yeah, what he got in trouble for, everybody's doing. They're just not in the light about it.
Yeah, they're just picking on him because it's election season.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. And like I said, not a political thing. It just is what it is.
I sway away from politics and religion on conversations.
I do too. Yeah. I say it like at the end of the day, live your life. I don't care if you're left, right, green, purple. Do your thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Same here.
But no, that's the thing. Being financially literate is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And you need to know how to make your money work for you. And at the end of the day, being an employee doesn't make you rich. Being an owner, reinvesting in yourself, doing those things, putting your money into accounts that are high yielding rather than just your savings account where they get 0.0001% every year, a penny, not really anything. And I feel like that's where a lot of people need to learn.
And I think a lot of people too, like, worried, maybe it's like outside like opinions are worried about, but like starting your own business, like so many people like slack on it, and it's just like, if you want to do something, like just do it, and just get started and working on it and progressing. Like you can have your job and then have your side business.
That's what this is right here.
Yeah. Yep. Like I even started off doing that. Like luckily I've been full-time on my company now, and I've been able to make ends meet for myself and my employees. And like, I always try to put my employees first, like first, obviously put the customers first, and then, them internally, the employees first, making sure they're safe. Like I was talking about it like previously, but there's been times where like I've cut off like a $6,000 a month client because I'm like, this just is like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like basically, lack of better terms, like I have to fire the client. Yeah. And then like my employees like, oh my God, like what are you gonna do? Like how are we gonna get paid? Like what's going on? I'm like, you're still gonna get paid. They still get paid. And you know what happens? Something better comes along. And it's always like, it always works out. Yep. And I think like also like understanding, like if you want to do it, like if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be comfortable with eating shit. Like it's such a glorified thing being an entrepreneur. Like you see it on social media, you see the highlight reel, right? You see it when people have already made it. But a big thing that like I'm trying to do, like, which I think is valuable, is like, which I slacked on, which I suggest everyone does from the beginning, is document yourself. Yep. Document the journey, like show what it is, like, cause like it's not all sunshine and rainbows, And I think like also understanding, if you do want to become an entrepreneur, you have to be like very like innate to, like you have to love risk. Like there's no surety. Nope. Like if you're like, all right, I'm going to dive full time into this like career, like you got to give it your all, and you got to know you have to understand there's no surety. That's why, the salary, that's why the hourly came into place, because people want surety. So you're trading your money potential that you could be making for surety to make less, but it's sure. Exactly. And that's where it's like, that's why with entrepreneurs and business owners, you can make a lot of money, but do you really want to risk it all for that? Are you really ready to dive in? And that's the uncomfortable talk that most people don't want to have. And that's the difference between certain people. Yeah. And I could talk about this for hours, and we'll definitely have you back on for part 2, because I will have more questions in the future and everything. But I do have one final question for you. Okay. And I always ask, anytime it's their first time on the podcast, I always ask this question, and is, do you feel successful? And if you do or you do not, in what ways? That's a good question. Thank you. Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. I think yes, I do feel like successful if I were looking at past to where I'm at now, but I think I'm always hungry to become better, and I'm always hungry to defy the odds. As I've told you kind of over my whole life, I feel like it's been a battle of defying odds and overcoming, and not letting, current situations define who I'm going to be. And that's based off of what I've learned from my parents. And, I'm really happy with where I'm at right now. Like I am really blessed, like to be in the situation that I'm at, but, I don't think I'm ever going to be satisfied until I'm sitting back, already sold this company on to my next thing, and then I'm still not going to be satisfied. I'm never going to be satisfied. I hate like, as cliche as it sounds, like, I don't know, like I'm always striving, like I said, to become the better 10 years forward version of myself. And, I think if you find satisfaction with where you're at, you find complacency. And when you find complacency, you find death. So, you can be stagnant and you can be satisfied with where you're at. So I'd say, no, I'm not satisfied.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. That's going to be a quote card. I need to put that up as a quote. But no, man, that's solid. And like I said, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come sit with me. I know you're a busy man, owning a business and everything, but I definitely want to work with you more in the future. Like I said, you did a great job on here. I really enjoyed your story. Thank you for opening up about certain things as well. I appreciate you telling me your story from being young, and then obviously the crazy arc that you've had to make it to where you are today. I think you're going to kill it, man. I look forward to seeing your ventures grow. I look forward to seeing you sell your company, and look forward to seeing what you do in the future as well. But before I let you go, please let everybody know where they can follow you, your social media, website, any of that good stuff, please.
So you can find me on that.orange.guy on Instagram. Also, if you like fitness, you can find Orange Guy Fitness as well.
Hey.
That's my separate channel that a lot of people don't know about. I actually took it off my bio to kind of optimize my bios. So that's also another big thing that I'll provide value offline for you on. But then outside of that, you can find us at trueculturemarketing.com. So if you need anything at all, feel free to DM me. That's the best route, or, give me a call.
Hell yeah, guys. Well, make sure y'all go give him a follow. Everything in the description will be able to be linked to him, so you guys will be able to click it, go straight to him. All his information will be on there. So make sure you guys go give him a follow. You'll learn some good stuff and be able to add something to your, whether it's your social media, your business, all that good stuff. But before we get out of here, feel free to give us a follow. It's going to be at Who Are You Pod for all of our social media, at Who Are You Pod for our YouTube. Make sure you guys give us a subscribe. There's a bunch of people watching the videos, but I need some more subscribers. I'm adding some value here. You guys are learning stuff here today. So make sure you guys give us a follow on there. And if you guys know anybody who has a story needs to be told, whether a business owner, entrepreneur, nonprofit, any of that good stuff, you can shoot me an email. It's going to be whoareyoupod@yahoo.com, or you can hit me up in the DMs. But as I say every single week, y'all, thank you so much for taking the time to listen or watch us today, and we'll see you guys next week.